Leeds United are potentially going to be in a very, very complicated legal situation in the next months, years, however long these legal things take. But thankfully, it's not one that we're on the wrong end of, as we saw with the Jean-Kevin Augustin thing, where we ended up paying £42 million for a player that played 51 minutes of competitive football for us. Genuinely insane that we managed to screw that one up so badly, but thankfully we're on the right side of this one because Leeds United are potentially considering legal action against Leicester City. This bit of news has come from the Times, and it comes in the wake of Burnley getting £40 million out of Everton after they continued their legal action when Everton breached FFP and ended up getting a small points deduction, but a points deduction that came too late and led to Burnley getting relegated. Now, in the same case, we decided to settle against Everton, Everton effectively just paying us a sum of money to go, can we make this go away by giving you an unnamed sum of money? I'm assuming the sum was named between the two clubs, but that's never come out the amount that we got from Everton. But the Leicester City case has a little bit of precedence now. Everton and Burnley, we've seen now that a team that breaks PSR can be financially liable for the issues that are caused to a team that gets relegated or loses out financially as a result of their financial cheating. And Leeds United did lose out as a result of Leicester City's financial cheating because the specific seasons in question, 22-23, was the season where Leeds United got relegated, and this is one of the two seasons that are reportedly being looked at and considered by Leeds United as seasons that we might want to take a little bit of a dip into. Also, they're the seasons that Leicester were found to be in breach of the regulations, so it all makes plenty of sense. In 22-23, Leeds United were relegated, which you might think, cool, this could work to our advantage because Leicester came above us in the table, however, they also got relegated. In 23-24, the second season that we're looking at, Leicester City got promoted at the expense of Leeds United because Leeds ended up in third place that season, got to the playoff final, and ended up losing that, which ended up not promoting the club and causing some financial distress, selling the likes of Somerville, Rutter, and Archie Gray, which wasn't the best of situations. Now, if we have a look at the two seasons in question and have a little bit of a think about how exactly we might do in that conversation, that's where things get a little bit more complicated, and I want to take a little bit of a deeper dive. So, you look at 22-23. As mentioned, both sides went down, which means that Leeds don't necessarily get the same case as the Burnley-Everton conversation. The Burnley-Everton conversation was Everton stayed up just about whilst Burnley went down. So in that situation, Burnley get to go, hang on a minute, we've gone down at your expense, which cost us a significant sum of money that we would have gotten if we stayed in the Premier League. That's the basis of them winning a shit ton of cash from Everton. That doesn't really apply in the 22-23 season for Leeds because we both went down. The furthest extent of what we could do is say, well, we should have finished above you in the table, therefore about £1 million, which, let's be honest, that's not a non-existent sum of money. That is huge for a normal person. However, football clubs are not normal people. Football clubs are terrifying entities with amounts of cash that make no sense to anybody, so it doesn't hugely move the scales here. The big one is 23-24, where, as mentioned, Leicester City went up in our place because they came first, we came third. In the event that Leicester did break financial rules and should have been docked points, should have lost out on a hell of a lot, there is a fair argument that Leeds United should have been the side to go up instead because we came third, which means that we should have had an extra year of Premier League revenue. Which is the same argument that Burnley have made in the Everton case, which is the same, assuming that we're following precedent here, approximately £40 million in terms of something regarding a payout. That's primarily through the form of TV money, through Premier League prize money. A weird thing that people seem to say is that the playoff final, if you win that, you get more money than the team that comes in first place. It's not the case. The only reason people say that it's a match worth 150 million quid is that's what you get for being in the Premier League. The promoted sides are already there. But that's a very, very strong opportunity for Leeds United to get something, but there is a question around whether it will actually go somewhere. Now, the main point of conversation, as far as I'm aware, has been a question of will Leeds actually do it, or are they just in conversation with potential legal representatives to get an idea of if it's something they should do. And I think it's a case of being more than just is it something Leeds should do, and more is there an alternative option for Leeds United here? Because the alternative option, which I think is fairly strong, is to start with a legal action and not necessarily follow it through all the way. Now, that might sound a little bit counterintuitive, and I completely understand that because, on the face of it, it's like starting an attack in football and not taking a shot. But the reality of the situation is we got Everton to settle. And Leicester City right now are looking at a situation with very, 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 very strong precedent sat right there in front of them of a £40 million fine that they effectively need to pay Leeds United, which isn't something that they will want to do at all. They're currently in League One, their revenues are effectively zero. I can't remember how exactly the financial rules work in League One. I don't think they're as stringent, but they won't want to add £40 million onto that particular bill. So the question is, if we apply enough legal pressure, does that put them in a position where they just decide, sod it, I do not want to risk this, I'm happy enough to settle? That, I believe, is probably the strategy that makes the most sense for Leeds at the moment. Get all the information together, build the bare bones of a case, present it to Leicester and go, look, this is everything that we've got. We'll have our lawyers talk to your lawyers, and if you want, you can settle something, or you can take a risk. Because if it comes down to a legal battle, which are very expensive, and it comes down to a budget for lawyers, I promise you right now, Premier League Leeds United, with the investors of the 49ers, have a far, far bigger legal budget than Leicester City sitting in League One. At the very least, what we need to be doing at this point is building a little bit of a case, applying pressure to Leicester and saying, look, Erling Haaland's just scored, he's my fantasy league captain. Sorry about that, I got distracted. At the very minimum, we need to be applying all of that pressure. We need to be making sure that they're aware that there is a financial threat to them here, and that the cheaper way out of it is to settle, is to give us a little bit of money. Ideally more than what our legal fees would be, obviously. And hopefully everything is nice and quiet, but it saves a lot of time. It makes sure that they don't have to pay 40 odd million quid. Lovely. I don't necessarily know if we would make all of that sum of money. That is a massive sum of money, and I have a little bit of a feeling that promotion isn't quite the same as not being relegated from that sort of legal financial perspective. But I don't know. I'm not a legal expert. But that's the general gist. I think what we need to be doing is building that case, following up on that case, and doing everything we can to make things as difficult as we can for Leicester to make them make a decision. But as always, that's just what I think. Not a legal expert, very obviously. If anyone is a legal expert, let me know in the comments down below. That'd be lovely. Also, like the video whilst you're there and subscribe. Hope you all enjoyed. I will be back tomorrow, potentially lunchtime. I don't know, for a little bit of an England preview, because finally England are getting to play a game of football at the World Cup. And then hopefully it'll start to feel more like a World Cup. But yeah, gonna leave it there. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all later. Toodaloo.